Hello again and welcome to this month's teaching. My title this month is It's Incredible, It's Unbelievable. Now, I spent many years with adolescents teaching in school, so I'm familiar with their type of language, things like it's cool and so on. But this particular expression, it's incredible or it's unbelievable, this is used by all age groups, men, women, boys, girls of all ages. These two adjectives, incredible and unbelievable, are on the lips of the sports commentators. Did you see that goal? It's incredible. Or even in the supermarket, you hear people say, look at the price of avocados. It's unbelievable. Now, we as Christians are also known as believers in the scripture, Acts 5 and verse 14, 1 Timothy 4 and verse 12. So the characteristic that should distinguish us as a true Christian, as opposed to a heathen, is that a Christian has believed in his heart that God raised Christ from the dead. Romans 10 and verse 9. The following verse, I'll read it from the Amplified, Romans 10:10. For with the heart a person believes, and so is justified, declared righteous, and acceptable to God. And with his mouth he confesses and confirms his salvation. So we have to believe in our heart and believe in the way we speak. So in other words, we speak faith, we don't speak unbelief. During Jesus' earthly ministry, he not only dealt with the devil directly just after his 40-day fast, but he also dealt with the devil indirectly. You'll see the direct confrontation in Luke 4 and verses 1 to 13. And dealing indirectly with the work of the devil, he healed many who were afflicted by sickness, and he cast out many devils. That's in Matthew 8 and verse 16. Jesus was totally aware that the spiritual world influenced the physical world, and nothing has changed today. The devil is still actively at his work of killing, stealing, and destroying. But it's important in our time on the earth to understand the way in which he does it. How is he continuing to keep most of the populations of the world in darkness, sickness, and sin? Well, one of his main strategies is to affect the way we speak. The devil is no fool. He understands spiritual laws. He knows there is death and life in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. So what the devil has managed to do is to inject unbelief into our everyday conversations. If he can get the population as a whole and individuals in particular to speak death, then he can keep his goods in peace. Luke 11:21. When your neighbour constantly tells you that he cannot believe what you say to him about the gospel, it's just incredible, then the tongue is continuing its work as the rudder, guiding the unbeliever constantly towards sickness and destruction. Yes, just little words from that little tongue. We read that in James 3, verses 3 to 9. And the worst thing is that people are completely unaware of what's happening. If you think back as to why a whole generation of Jews died wandering around in the desert, why do you think that happened? Was it because of adultery, rape, murders, child abuse, all those sins that we consider the worst kind of perversion? No, it wasn't any of those. We find the answer in Hebrews chapter 3. I'll paraphrase verses 7 to 19. The Jews were kept in the wilderness because God was grieved with them, because they did not know his ways. And then in verses 12 and 19, we clearly see that it was because of their evil hearts of unbelief. These scriptures warn us not to harden our hearts and refuse to believe and trust in God. Jesus trained his disciples to trust him and follow him and to believe his words. John 6:63, his words are spirit and life. When the epileptic boy was not delivered in Matthew 17, Jesus had been up the mountain, Mount Hermon, and was transfigured. When Jesus came down with 3 disciples, he found 9 disciples unable to cast out this devil of epilepsy. He was extremely angry with them. He did not gently scold them. He said this, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I have to suffer you?" Matthew 17:17. Then he explained why the disciples had failed. He said in verse 20, Matthew 17:20, "Because of your unbelief." Unbelief is expressed in our words. That's why a Christian should train their tongue. I need to train my tongue. If you're a believer, you need to train your tongue to speak faith and not unbelief. Avoid expressions of surprise like, "It's incredible." You are speaking unbelief, and it's not a small, insignificant fault. These kind of things are not insignificant. They cause a tremendous impact on our lives. If unbelief could stop a whole Jewish generation from experiencing the peaceful blessings of God, it's going to stop us as well if we speak things like this. Unbelief is a powerful force. It will act against your faith and cancel it out. Don't be like Mary and John and Mark and their friends who were praying all night for Peter's release, Acts chapter 12. And when Rhoda, the little girl, went to the gate, because Peter was at the gate in person, she went back and told the people who were praying, "He's at the gate." They told her she was mad. Talk about unbelief. We're all subject to it, and we need to be vigilant, especially in our speech. So think faith, talk faith, and just like Peter's prison door, your prison doors will open as well. Think about that this month, meditate on it, and I'll see you next time. God bless you, and thanks for listening.